giving them the invitations.
Back on here.
Okay, we're resuming our meeting, and we'll be having a public hearing, and this is on the flood damage prevention ordinance. And Administrator Schroeder.
I'd just like to introduce this subject by stating that we are going to continue the public hearing till the 17th. We noticed it in two papers. We sent the notice to two papers. It only got in the Reporter. It didn't get in the Coastal.
In the pilot?
They made a mistake. We sent it in, so it is in today's paper. And Council Huddle has determined that because we have two papers as papers of record, we can't close the public hearing without the second paper having the notice and proper notice for 10 days.
So are we going to have part of the public hearing today part on the 17th?
No,
or just
we'll have the public hearing and we'll have the presentation. The 17th will be a formality, which is just in case somebody saw that notice and needs to come in and wants to say something on the 17th.
Okay, so bottom line, we will not be able to vote on the issue until the 17th.
That's correct, and there isn't any hard deadlines on this. I had originally thought we had to report to the state by October 10th. Council Huddle had reviewed it, talked to the FEMA people, and we don't need to report to them until
November
16th.
18th. So having it continue to the 17th is no problem whatsoever.
Okay, so we'll present the information today. We'll have John Bischoff, our interim county planning director.
And John, do you want the stuff that's in the packet up on the computer, or no?
Well, I think if you have the packet, you know what's in it.
Right, a whole lot of pages.
Yes. And I guess what I need to say is that this is a FEMA requirement, and that if we do not pass this by November 16th, you would not be able to buy flood insurance in the county, anywhere in the county.
Mm-hmm.
Because FEMA handles the flood insurance, all flood insurance. There are private agencies that will sell flood insurance, but it's all FEMA flood insurance. So this is a new flood ordinance. Apparently they've expanded the flood zones in certain areas. But the ordinance does not change anything that can go into those zones. It's just how they go into the zones. And if anybody wants to know if their property is in the flood zone or not, in a new flood zone, there's a website. It's long, but they can go to it. It's FEMA.gov/national.
So would that help if we put it on our website and you could just direct the people to go to the website? Yes.
Yeah, so there's two things here. We will link this onto the website with the packet from today. In addition, I have talked to our GIS provider, and they will be downloading the files to have an overlay on the county website for GIS so you could see your property and the updated FEMA maps. That should not take more than a week or so.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
And that's about all I have, unless you have questions about the changes, which I hope I can answer, because I actually didn't work on this, but...
Well, I'm just going to kind of give a bottom line here. People will be unable to get flood insurance if they're in a floodplain if we do not pass this ordinance.
That's
and not
correct.
only that, they will not be able to get financing through a bank if they don't have that flood insurance. So the only people who would be able to buy homes in a floodplain would be those with cash offers.
That's right.
Okay, I just thought that needed to be emphasized. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Council Huddle?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I wanted to try, so when John Bischoff was mentioning the website, the long website, it's this website right here. And then what I'd like to try to do is here it says view and obtain flood maps. And so you go to the FEMA is what, Federal Emergency Management Agency administration. And so they handle disasters on a federal level. And then to search for an address or place, if anyone wants to find out, I'm typing on my computer and I can't type it in from here.
John,
Ron Bischoff, can you type in Curry County, Oregon on the computer keyboard at your place there?
Could you actually type in your home address if you want it there?
You might be able to type, it says enter an address, but
Yeah, you can type in your home address, because I played with it. But you have to put in Curry County, Oregon, because it could be, or at least Curry County, because it could be any place in Oregon. And
Right.
why don't you type in Curry County, Oregon in that
Okay.
space bar there. So if you all in the audience wanted to find out where the Federal Emergency Management Agency has designated on your property, whether you're in a floodplain or not, which would then indicate what kind of building you can put on your property and those kind of things. So you can punch in Curry County, Oregon, it'll pull up the map for Curry County, Oregon, and here it is right here.
can you pull,
Then-
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll try to zoom in a little bit.
And that gives you each of the panels.
This looks like Gold Beach right here. That looks like the Rogue River. So then what the Federal Emergency Management Agency has done is they've created floodplain zones. Whoa, what just happened there? Hold on a second.
It's that mouse.
It could be the mouse. There it is, good. Okay. So what we've got is they've got all these zones, they've got these heights on I'm trying to remember what these things are called. These
Contour.
gradients. Yeah, the contours. And then they've decided that this is a floodway zone, AE, and in given zone AE, there's certain restrictions from the text of what you can build in those flood zones. So it's really how likely is the area to be inundated. Here's some area here where they've shown, they've just marked them differently, and then they've got a legend. So this is just a map, but you guys could do this. All I did was get on this map and zoom in and zoom out. You can go to where your place is and find out. And so what the function of this public hearing today is to let people know that this map is proposed, and the county, FEMA wants us to adopt it by November 18th. We plan to adopt it by October 17th. And then what this will do is change what you can do on your property, and also I think some of your flood insurance rates that you get from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. But really that's the presentation in a nutshell. Unless the board had questions or the audience has questions, we have a microphone for public comments.
Commissioner Hartsley?
Just a comment as far as, like John had mentioned, he wasn't involved in it. This has been ongoing for years, plural. So this was a major task going back and forth. This didn't just take a few months to put together. A big deal, a real big deal.
The other thing you want to point out is if you expand the, if you want to look at a particular flood map, it's the last 4 digits of this number is the map number. So this would be map 70768E. And that, but we won't have the maps until after the 16th. They'll mail them to us once we've adopted the ordinance and got it.
Will those be paper copies down
The
in the
paper
planning
copies
office?
of the maps.
So,
Yeah. Each
No,
one of
both.
these, if you zoom out a little bit, you see different lines. That represents a different map on the in the county, over the county. So each one of those numbers would be a different map.
And so this will become a matter of what's called legislation in our county. And before we could adopt this piece of legislation, meaning this will become a law which regulates, what conduct you can do on your land. And before we could adopt this, we had to put out a newspaper notice advertising that we were having this public hearing today. We advertised in 2 newspapers, the News, I think the Curry County Reporter up north, and then the
pilot.
the Curry Coastal Pilot down south. And what happened is the Reporter published the advertisement for today's hearing, but the Pilot didn't. And so by law, we have to give at least 10 days notice. And that's why earlier on you heard we're going to be coming back and continuing this matter until the 17th, so that if anyone sees it in the Reporter, they can come. Believe it or not, there's a process you can go through the federal government. If you say, well, I've lived in my property for 30 years and it's never been flooded, so your hash marks are wrong, there's a process for you to go through to change the designation of how bad your property could be flooded.
So
and what
you could
can do on it.
appeal that decision if you wanted. Come on up.
Identify yourself and...
I think she's the teacher, so.
I am the teacher. I'm Phoebe Skinner. I live here in Gold Beach. I had a question. So since we're here out of our school day and my work day, so if somebody's not able to attend, are they able to submit written inquiries or comments to the meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
And if so, how?
Email is also okay. So that's a great question, because we're here during the workday. Not everyone can come during the workday. So we do allow written comments to be submitted, and email has been fine.
And the public notice had the email address. In this case, it went to Mr. Bischoff, but there's a general email for the county, BOC_office at the county extension. That's short for Board of Commissioners. And so that gets read by 3-4 of us that we see questions that come in.
I'm going to try something here. You guys are from Pacific High, so I want to try to see if I can't get this map
See if
to
they're in a flood zone.
see if Pacific High is going to get wiped out by a tsunami, something like that.
Driftwood up there, where college is on.
Driftwood, yeah.
You
Where's-
probably could just go back and put in Pacific High School and it might come up.
Oh, that'd be, I don't know why our map's gone blue screen on me, but I think you guys are close to here somewhere.
I would bet you're in a tsunami zone.
No.
The high school?
I think the basement might be clear, but we'll see. We are here.
Well, here we are. I thought your high
By the way,
school
Port
was
Orford is-
pretty low, though.
Port Orford is 45 feet above sea level, I think. Brookings is 58, something like that.
Why are we blue? Stop being blue.
Must be water.
Maybe if you zoom out and see if Commissioner Gold was right, if you zoom out a little bit.
So here's our tech support. Charles Douglas from Brant Media. Reload
Well, he
the
gets the
page.
big bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, just type in Pacific High and see what happens.
No, they're not in Gold Beach. Oh, no. Are you sixes
no.
with sixes? Sixes, Port Orford sixes.
I don't know.
What is it? 45525 US dash 101. Langlois.
Langlois.
What?
Yeah, you're only, what, 7 miles north of Langley, so,
No, they're south, aren't you?
South of Langley.
south of Langley, yeah.
Huh.
That'll work.
No, I don't know what that is. There's some cranberry bogs.
You're close. It's Airport Road right
Yeah,
up
there
there.
you go. Find the airport.
There's the
We're
airport.
right on the other side of the airport.
So there's the airport, so you guys are gonna be,
It's in the corner of the, yeah, we're towards the right.
hold on, right? Yeah, what, you wanna work the mouse here? There's, here you go. Here's the mouse, you can go up to the podium.
Now the true techies come out.
Now, can you zoom? Okay, now let's see if
There you
anything,
go.
okay,
There's
let's
the
see,
track.
now let's see what happens here. So that says area of minimal flood hazard. Do you see that writing there? Area of minimal flood hazard? So if we have a tsunami, you guys still have to go to school.
Oh, all right.
But now
Big
let's
help.
let's see how close you are to any kind of a. It's pretty steep around here. Cape Blanco juts up pretty high. I don't know that, and this is on a bluff. I think so. You guys, I think actually this airport is sitting up pretty high. It's got a long runway for emergencies. I think it's an asset that we plan on using. Thank you for your assistance. That's all really I had. Part of this is a little bit off topic, but really that shows in actuality how this would work. If somebody wanted to know whether their land was in a floodplain or not, we would have been able, they could have come here, said, where's my property? We could have zoomed in, could have told them what was going on, and they would know.
Well, it makes it more interesting for the
Yeah.
kids, so
Well,
we're all about that today.
sure.
Any other questions of John Bischoff?
I'm just going to interject for a second. Julie Swift here is our HR director, and so she's going to take the high school group and go over across the street to the DA and then to juvenile, and then you'll come back. All right?
Thank you for
Thanks,
dropping
everybody.
by.
Go Pirates!
Okay, we're at the point in our public hearing where we will accept
Yeah, go ahead,
any
sir.
public comments. Does anybody have any public comments?
And then we're just going to have to continue this until the 17th.
Okay, hearing no public comments at this point, we will be continuing this hearing until October 17th. Thank you. Okay, we're ready to get back to the meeting.
So that was Port Orford High School?
That was Port Orford High School. I think it's Pacific High School, though, is,
Yes.
I think they're
but it's
defending,
north
In
of...
Port, yeah.
Yeah.
defending state champs in basketball
Yeah.
and maybe track.
This year?
Yep.
Wow, good for them. Okay, number 13, requesting county funds for travel to November 2018 AOC, Association of Oregon Counties Annual Meeting for the Commissioner-elect. So, Mr. Schroeder.
All right, commissioners, you had asked, we brought this up for discussion, or maybe somebody brought it up for discussion in the last meeting. I was asked to research and come back with this. If you notice on the memo, page 2 of the document, there's a new commissioner orientation started on Tuesday, November 13th at 9 a.m., which is an additional $75 to the normal registration fee of $75. There's also a dinner that night, which is $60. The OC recommends that new commissioners attend all 3 days, which would be $475 plus the aforementioned additions. The Hilton, where the conference is located, is booked. There are other hotels around that are available. Brenda had informed me recently that there's another hotel that will honor the $118 price that the Hilton has. So these are just estimates of what it would cost. These are obviously not what's there. So if the board so directs that they want a commissioner-elect to attend, we would basically tentatively make a hotel reservation that we could basically cancel, but we most likely put it in my name because we don't know who's going to win.
Okay.
And then we would transfer that over, and then the conference we'd register for and do that. One of the considerations for the board to consider would be, if you look further down, the commissioner's travel budget for 2018-19 which go to June 30th, is $4,500. Expenses so far, as of August 31st, were $1,549. Commissioner Boyce has submitted his request for going to the conference, $475 plus a hotel, plus travel. Then the commissioner-elect, if the commission wants to have a commissioner-elect go, that would leave a balance of $1,106, roughly speaking, until June 30th of 19. So that would be my only caveat, which is it might be it might crimp the travel for the rest of the year.
Mr. Huxley?
I had a question, going back from memory, and a question for County Council. I know we had talked, it might have been last year, it might have been the year before, on travel expenses for elect individuals. In other words, they have not been sworn into office. And you came back or had an opinion at that time, I'm being real vague here, but that there was nothing, or I want to say a commissioner-elect might have been the proper term, but when we were looking at, and I don't remember who we were talking about, specifically, and that wasn't important anyway for our discussion. It was for a commissioner-elect. I know when I went, I just paid for it when I went in November of 2014. Okay, I guess it would have been. But I know we've talked about that before. I know we had.
Well, if you're wondering whether it's legal to spend the money on this purpose.
Well, I don't want to say so much if it's legal, but it came into, was it acceptable to spend money for a individual that had not been sworn into office yet? And that was the question. I think it was, the topic was commissioner-elect, I believe, but it could be any elected official, I guess.
Sure, and our general rules are that we have to spend money for a public purpose and then not for anyone's private pecuniary gain. And I know you're saying you purchased it with your own funds. I'm not sure if you requested reimbursement why you chose to do that.
That's incidental to the subject too.
Well,
really,
it sort of is, but again, I think once you have a commissioner-elect, and by the way, if I'm not mistaken, AOC has recommended that the county send commissioners-elect to the conference. So
that was the case when I went.
It's not hard to say that it's a public purpose is being met, and then I think also that it's not a personal benefit to whoever is the commissioner-elect. I don't believe they would be going to this conference, without having been elected. So they're not, and they're doing it for a public purpose, and the gain is to the county to have the commissioner-elect educated and brought up to speed on all the topics that they'll be covering. So I think it's very easy to declare that it's a public purpose, and I don't see, and if to me it would be the individual elected officials' question to perhaps even a OGEC, whether this is a benefit to them personally from their position, and that could cut both ways. Maybe OGEC would say, hey, you're not even an elected official, so the ethics laws don't apply until you get sworn in. It's really an in-betweener, but I think from the county's end, we can easily justify the public purpose, and that seems to be the consensus of the AOC organization itself. Not that I defer to them, but it's just adds weight. And then from the personal, I don't see how anyone's gaining, a personal expense. So I think the county can justify the expense publicly.
Administrator Schroeder, you had mentioned if that's done, how much would be left now these numbers are as of August, is that correct?
Yeah, as of
official.
August 31st, we don't have September done, roughly $1,100.
That would be left going into September, but we don't have
Yeah, we don't have September, and I'm adding
Print that one.
Boyce's travel
Yeah,
to
okay,
the...
I did
and then,
hear.
yeah, so that's why those numbers are not
Okay.
the same, so. I know Commissioner Boyce, you talked to Mr. Posh. Did he express interest in doing this if he were elected?
Yes. Jerry Lynn Thompson not got back to me, but she knows that I really would encourage her to go, either
Okay.
one of them. And for obvious reasons that has been communicated here.
Yeah,
So.
and whatever we would register for, we would basically be able to cancel and not expend money if the commissioner-elect decided they couldn't travel. But I think one of the issues, we just want to make sure that if they were elected, that they're aware of it, so they didn't schedule a vacation or something during that time.
The county paid my way 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, both years actually. Neither time have I stayed at the Hilton. I stayed with friends once, and I can't remember. Anyway, we can cut that back, and I think that's been my
Yeah. So I guess
obligation all along.
At this point, we're not expending any money. I guess I'm just looking for, a consensus or a direction. Does the board think we should make reservations for a commissioner-elect?
Like you said, they can cancel out for any reason
Yes.
they decide they don't want
Yeah,
to go.
and
but
if I don't hear any strong objections, I'm just going to carry forth with that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, consolidation of dispatch services study with City of Brookings. Mr.
Okay,
Schroeder.
so I will start and Mr. Huddle will finish. This has been an ongoing issue for the last couple months here. There was a proposal that was started by Administrator Gary down in
Milliman.
Milliman?
Mhm.
Yep. Down in Brookings, and the University of Portland has a $35,000 study that we would share. We're recommending sharing with Brookings to decide what it would take to consolidate the dispatch operations between Brookings and the county. Council Huddle had sent them a proposed IGA, and they had sent back a couple revisions to that on Thursday and Friday when Council Huddle was gone. And you have those documents. It's JJ sent that out. It's revision number 14D. I will highlight the only thing that they added was in section 2, page 1, scope of services. They expanded on basically would be section 2A, subsection 1, consolidation at city, consolidation at county, and formation of separate entities as a potential option for systems configurations and governance. And then the advantages or disadvantages for each scenario within the city or the county. So though that's the only change, and Council Huddle says that, and we ran this by Sheriff Ward, and he was not concerned about those. We think that would have been part of the study anyway, but now it's spelled out, so that would be part of the IGA we have with Brookings, directing the university to come back with those that information.
Council Huddle, did you have something to add to that?
Nope, the overall gist of the agreement, again, I do, I guess, have something to add, but what Administrator Schroeder said was this started with a letter between Gary Milliman at the City of Brookings and Portland State University, where Portland State wrote a letter to Mr. Milliman saying what they'd be willing to do on this dispatch study. What we wanted to do here was just make sure that it was not essentially a Brookings-centric study, since
In other words,
it's
biased.
Again, the initial overture was between Gary, the City of Brookings, and we want to participate in it, but we want to just participate in it equally. And so that's how we wrote the agreement. Brookings didn't have any problem with that. It sets up that if there's meetings between Portland State and the county and the city, that they all happen at the same time, that everyone shares all their dispatch information with each other, and that's a very, like you said, unbiased study. And then all Brookings did was add specific deliverables saying, You'll study a consolidation option located at Brookings, you'll study a consolidation option located at the county, and you'll study forming a new entity and then advantages and disadvantages of each. I felt like that was implied in the letter that they had presented, but it just made it express. The sheriff was okay with it, and I'm really now starting just to repeat what Mr. Schroeder said, so I'm just going to stop talking. But we think this is a good way to get going. The board directed to go, so we have no reason not to, and we're recommending you approve the agreement as Brookings has modified it.
Okay, and I think it's important for the audience to note that one of the advantages of consolidating is that we would be more apt to get grants necessary to fix our towers. So
That's possible, and that may be some of the information that, you know, the study will confirm and present in greater detail.
okay, so hearing all the information, do we have a motion to accept the consolidation of dispatch services study with the city of Brookings?
I motion with the changes that the city wanted to incorporate in the
Okay.
language.
Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Gold.
Any further discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Good work. Good work.
Okay, so let's get down to announcements. We have vacancies on the Ambulance Service Activity Advisory Committee, law enforcement position. On the Parks Advisory Committee, taking applications. Planning Commission, one from South and one from North County. I think we took care of the BOPTA today. October 10th is a workshop at 10 a.m. in the hearing room. October 17th, general meeting at 10 a.m. in the hearing room. October 31st, Budget Committee meeting at 10 a.m. in the Commissioners' hearing room. November 7th, general meeting.
Pardon me, sorry. Louise piped in with 9 on that Budget Committee meeting,
Yes.
but this printout says 10.
Yep.
So it's going to be 9 a.m.?
9 a.m. on the 31st, yes.
Is that going to get newspaper notice and that kind of thing, or? Okay, all right, because this is it'll be a public meeting. Good, all right.
Okay. Commissioner Huxley?
I've just one question and then a comment, or I guess one question and a comment followed with a question. On the workshop that's scheduled for the next Wednesday, what topics are on it now?
Right now I have 2 topics. I want to get board information and board direction. We're going to study the ferry hole ramp on the Rogue River. We've discussed this with staff, and I think I'm at the point where I need the board to be informed about what staff has reviewed and their interest in the direction for that particular boat ramp. It's the old ferry, about 5
That's a
miles.
commissioner's workshop, right?
Commissioner's workshop.
Thank you.
And then the second thing is I've had a request from Brooklyn Weiss from CCH. She would like to discuss with the county board the possibility of instituting a tobacco business license within the county. The state precludes counties from putting county tax on tobacco products or alcohol products at a county level, but a business license is something that other counties within the state have developed in order to more closely monitor or regulate tobacco sales. You could do things such as hours of operation, places, distances, but she basically is the tobacco prevention specialist, although I'm not sure exactly that's her title, but that's what I see her do. And she would like to discuss this with the board.
So where would those tax monies go? Just
There aren't
curious.
any money. It's not a taxing issue.
Okay, but the business license or...
Yeah, the business license would be, would the county want to develop regulations for licensing tobacco products at the county level besides what you have at the state level, obviously?
Okay,
She'll be presenting all the information next week.
Yeah, I really don't have anything. I've given you every information I know about it right now.
Okay,
so-
she
Just
could
have
tell us
material-
where
she can have
money is.
materials
Yeah,
submitted for
I don't have any,
publication.
I've exhausted myself.
But she'll
Okay.
be submitting materials for publication and a packet and everything? And
By the end of today.
Okay.
Yep. So that will be in the packet on Friday.
Okay. Commissioner Huxley?
You just, I guess, normally, I associate, call it what you want, a fee, I normally associate when anybody mentions they want to put a business license on, there's usually a tax that is tied to that. So, but we'll find out.
We'll
next-
find out more.
next
Yeah.
week.
I don't know if there would be a
Okay.
licensing fee or just a requirements like a zoning ordinance. You have to comply with it. I don't know.
On the notices, how are these noticed? And that because of the comments on the Board of Property Tax Appeal application, when we have these other notices for various applications, how are they? We see them here, but how many people read the county agenda?
I would assume everybody in the county.
Okay.
Just like they watch these
So
meetings.
how
You didn't
how
even
do you
smile
try?
like
It was so lame. It didn't even. Now I'm smiling, but
Okay.
Oh,
but
no.
realistically, how do we get things out from?
Well,
from
they're on our web. They're on
applications
our
to-
website also.
to-
So we put them on the front page of the website under news when we have
Okay.
current openings. Some of these openings, I mean, like the Parks Advisory Committee, JJ, when have we done applicating for that?
Well, committee is official October 16th.
Okay, so we got to get October 16th would be the deadline for putting in applications for that.
How many applications do we have so far? 4. Okay.
And I just talked to all the students that were here, and hopefully maybe some of them will want to join.
The reason let me ask a question then to go with this, because I don't think it hits a big target market on any of these, from advisories to positions openings. What do the papers have? I know they have free sections that you can get different things noticed. But I don't know enough to talk more than that intelligently, but I would sure
We could
encourage, to at least ask them, for topics like this, what is available that
Maybe
for
you could do a
publication
news
in the
release.
papers.
Well,
So we don't have to pay for
we have the news releases in the past. The other thing I could think
But
of
they
is
have other areas. I just can't
Yeah,
remember what
public
they call it.
notices.
but
Bulletin
for
board, but
but they have
that's
other
specific
areas.
thing.
No,
where-
I think it's all worth investigating. The other thing I
Um,
was just thinking with, I know Carl's gone, but, putting something on the voices that just says.
I have
here's-
one other question since we're talking about publication. On this public hearing where the pilot did not publish like they should have, are they going to pay for the extra publication we have to spend money on for?
No, my understanding of my conversations with them yesterday, they were not going to charge us for the public notice that needs to go in. They're going to not charge us for it, I guess.
Okay.
Because it didn't go in last time, so that was my
But the error was on their
The error was
their
on their
own.
part, yeah, they readily admitted that they
Okay.
made an error.
Council Huddle?
Well, you mentioned Carl King. So the experience I've had with boards and committees, a lot of times the commissioners themselves would go, try to buttonhole somebody or, personally try to talk someone into being on a board or commission. Like if it was a parks commission, then the parks director would go around to organizations, parks users, those kind of things. Up in my neck of the woods, our local government posts at the bulletin board in the post office saying that there's openings on boards and commissions for their, local government. And there's, certainly a lot of bulletin boards. There's library bulletin boards, post office bulletin boards, supermarket bulletin boards that I don't think charge anything. And so those could be options to post for advertising of the openings. But really my experience is that the people, the planning director would try to find planning people, the parks director would try to find parks people, and all of the elected officials would try to find people interested as well. Like the assessor could probably find some BOPTA people, those kind of things. So any, you know, the sheriff could find people to be on tax advisory committees. I think he did, and maybe even on the CBAC or something. So you all know as many folks out in the community as anybody, so a lot of times word of mouth is the other way these things happen.
Actually, that's the best way to have things happen,
Well,
in my opinion.
It's tried and true.
Yeah. But I
Mr. Huxley?
think that the county can do much more to get it out to more people, and
With
the-
little more expense.
But little to no expense, correct, with just these examples that we talked about. There's
There you
another
go.
one, social media.
I don't know that the county has a Facebook page. And
Well, I say social media, I don't know that, you know, but online more or something.
Yeah, we have, some of our individual departments have Facebook pages,
Yeah.
such as
We could
emergency
get it out a lot
management,
more to a
the
lot more
sheriffs,
people.
and juvenile and other things, but the county itself as a whole doesn't have one,
Well, we've got a web page, so.
yeah, but we don't have a Facebook page, yeah.
Okay, so administrator updates. Mr. Schroeder.
Okay, I have a couple things here. There was, and I see that Commissioner Huxley has the same piece of paper I do, so I will talk about it a little bit, and he can finish up later. This is a email that came back from our auditing firm, Polly Rogers, and this basically is in referencing to the minutes. We had the discussion last time concerning should the county have written minutes. And I know the general direction I'm pointing staff is the board kind of wanted to wait until new direction came back from the state. I guess they're going to have some new interpretations or new recommendations concerning how counties and cities should record and store minutes. I'll just give a couple sentences in here that, you know, these are the financial auditors and they're limiting and expressing their opinions to financial matter reporting, as well as a very limited set of non-financial compliance matters. And you'd have like internal controls and other things auditors would do, as you're well aware of. So in their regards, I'm just going to say they feel they're interpreting the specific wording of the ORS statute is for legal professionals and outside the scope of what financial auditors do. That being said, when they do the financial audit for us, they want a review of an entity's minutes for materials of financial matter. So they don't really care that much about what we say about the travel policy. You know, they're not looking at those. They're looking at how are we deciding and documenting the financial decisions that the county makes in written format. That's what they're looking at. They basically have that they want discussions should be summarized as a financial auditor could have, but if we don't do that, they could budget staff time and require to view and transcribe hundreds of hours of meetings. However, doing that would require increasing the audit fees by tens of thousands of dollars for the hundreds of hours work that would be needed. So, you know, so that being said, I think that's fairly reassuring of the direction which we are going, which is just continue taking written minutes, and we'll wait until the state comes out with, you know, the expected new language, and if there's anything changed in that, we can address that at that time or make changes. So I'll continue, and then you, if you want to finish up on that?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
if I may, you
Yeah.
missed the most important sentence that they had in the whole thing.
He was trying to get there.
Okay. No, I think you were finished. weren't
I was-
you?
I was finished on that, yeah.
That's what I thought. And what they said, this finding, which is best practice, okay? So they're not saying that this is right or that's right, but you do need written minutes. But they went on because this was totally contrary to what we've heard in some of these meetings previously from certainly Accountant Kallstrom, from yourself also, says that the finding, which is best practice, does not, and they've underlined not, alter our overall audit opinion and has no impact on the ability of the county to qualify for grants, consider future long-term debt interest rates, etc. Because I think that the statements has been made, if we don't do written minutes, it will hurt our credit rating, et cetera, and they're not
Yeah,
saying
they're
that.
just
They're
saying,
saying to the
they're saying
contrary.
it's best practices.
Yeah, they're saying, they're emphasizing that it won't.
Yeah, but it's best
So,
practices, yes.
okay.
Okay. I've been working on Title III reauthorize.
I had a question.
Mr.
I
Boyce?
have a quick question. I just had a little secure feeling that you headed toward some kind of a compromise that, based on the auditor's recommendation there, we could actually just record written minutes on what we learn that they are needing and not everything else, because we still have the video backup. That would save us some money. Is that something to consider?
Well, it's something to consider. My recommendation is to have written minutes, because let's say 10 years from now they want to talk, what did you guys talk about regarding this land use decision you just made? Somebody's not going to want to go through 4 hours of videos to see what
They're still going to, if they want the actual one step removed from one person's interpretation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, has that happened in the last 10 years, though?
Well, let's wait to see what the state has to say.
Thank you.
Can I make one comment? JJ, I think in the minutes you have put times where this stuff occurs, is that correct?
Based on your recommendation.
Okay, and so an individual that wanted to get more detail wouldn't have to listen to the whole thing. They could just go to that time.
Very good. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay? I just wanted to mention that so that...
Yeah. Okay. I'm working on, Colstrom and I, we're working on reauthorizing Title III money. There was an authorization of Title III money for Firewise projects basically last November. In anticipation of money coming in the winter and the spring of this year, the money that came from Title III was not what was expected, and so we're going to reauthorize it. So we're going to decrease what we have for projects. So we're working with Coos Fire Protection Association and Harbor Fire District to look at the projects that we had granted them authorization to spend money on, and they're figuring out where they're at in the projects, what would it take to finish the projects, and then also what else we're going to have the money directed towards county operations, which would be search and rescue, towers, and those other things. And so I just wanted the board to know that we're working on that, and we'll come back with further information for you, hopefully at the next meeting on the 17th.
Could you just explain that one more time? What you're trying to do with the money? Reauthorize, what's that about?
What we're going to do is basically correct an order. So there was an order that authorized Title III money last November.
That for spending on different projects?
For spending on projects, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And the money that came in was not the money that was authorized, it's less.
Okay.
And so we're basically going to correct the order to align with the money that did come in.
Okay, but the largest, there were one or two of the largest by far, the lion's share went to the sheriff department for,
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
way the lion's share.
Yes, and we're probably going to still stick with that methodology,
Okay.
but we don't want it, there was a project that was started, I got it. There's a project that was started and they stopped working on it up in the Indian Hills neighborhood. And so what we're trying to find out is what would it take to button that down or finish that project up, because we don't want to leave something just half done.
Dollar-wise, not to the dollar or anything, what are we talking? We were talking $1 million or $1 million plus, weren't we, to start with?
It was not, you can go up. It was like 960,000, 930,000 that was allocated. And we basically, this past spring, we got in 168,998, and we're anticipating that, and we're checking with Rocky McVeigh on this, we're anticipating that we'd probably get around 90% of that this spring or this winter.
90% of the total?
Of the 168,000 that we already received.
Okay.
And so that would basically leave it in the 150,000. So we're basically talking around, instead of over 900, we're talking around 300. Am I within the ballpark?
Yes, that's what I was going to
Okay.
say.
Okay.
960 or 70,000
I was thinking, $1 million.
was obligated last November, and what we're looking at is that we really only have about a total of 320,000.
And that was over a period that had been, I don't want to use the word accrued, but this happened over a period of time, and as I understood it, it was like, you better use it or lose it type
Well, the money that we have...
comments coming back.
The money that we had over the period of time is already obligated. So this money that you did last November was for the new money that was coming in. The SRS reauthorization that was for
Okay.
2 years.
Okay.
But the amount that happened versus the amount that was obligated for that is so
Doesn't
different
even
that that's
close.
what
Yeah,
we're
yeah, and like I say, I don't have all the details on here. I just wanted to let,
Okay.
I've gotten some few calls from the Indian Hills neighborhood. This is more of a, letting them know that we are studying this. We haven't ignored this issue. We will come back to the board with a recommendation for approval for reallocation or a corrected order.
Okay.
So, Budget Committee, on the 31st, I'm setting up a schedule with the 24 departments, 10-minute slots. We're going to start at 9 a.m. That will take us till about 2:30, and at 2:30, between 2:30 and 4 or 2:30 and 5, then Colstrom and I, or anybody else who the Budget Committee wants to talk to, we can get direction for further research and or further reporting and recommendations from the Budget Committee based on what you're doing. So we're looking for a short 10-minute interaction with the department head. Are you on track? If you're not on track, why? And right now we have the July and August revenue and expense statements. They went out to the Budget Committee and to the commissioners, and we're shooting to have the September statements done by October 24th in order to give the Budget Committee and the commissioners 1 week to look at the documentations beforehand.
Commissioner Huxley?
Are those on the county finance webpage yet? I know they were not the last time I looked, but it's been a few days. I know they weren't, but I'm not going to say they aren't now. But if they aren't, they need to for the public.
Code enforcement updates. We're going to have a report, and I guess from the board perspective, if you want more detail, I can point you in the direction into an internal document. But we basically opened the month of September with 8 open cases. We got 4 new complaints in, and we had resolutions on 2. We sent out 3 warnings. No citations were issued, and we're ending with a count of 12. And they're just going to keep adding up. So we have talked to, right now this is just on a spreadsheet, and the commissioners have access to this on a common drive, so they can look at it. If you're a citizen and you're concerned if your case is on there, you can contact me or Dave Fortman, or the commissioners have access to that website, to that spreadsheet. The other thing we're looking at in the future, if all of a sudden we start getting hundreds of these complaints, I've talked to Penny and Shelley downstairs. One of their permit software programs has a code enforcement module that we could put in, and basically proprietary software that we'd put in that would track it. So we're going to just grow with this and learn as we go. So.
Commissioner Huxley?
You mentioned these are on an internal drive. Are these public records? I assume they are. You wouldn't be sharing them with any employee or any and every employee that has access to the drives.
Well, let's see. We have, when I'm looking at the spreadsheet, they have the individuals' names, the complainant's names, address, telephone numbers, email addresses. I would, in my limited knowledge base, I would say this would not be something that we would post on the internet as a public record without being redacted.
And yet it's available to any employee.
Well,
That's a quick
it's on the common drive.
On the common drive.
But part of that is because there are multiple departments that are going to be looking
Well,
at
I
this.
understand.
So your
I understand. I'm
assessors,
just saying if it's
planning gets complaints,
Understand.
building inspection gets
Yeah.
complaints, public health, so
So
multiple departments have to look at it.
It's easy to correct that if you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that may be something we can look into. I'll work with Council Huddle
Okay,
to find
thank
out.
you, and let us know,
If this is,
because-
if a file that is open to employees,
which it is.
which it is available for being on the website, I think that's two different standards.
I know.
Well, and we do have to be careful about publishing.
Yes, yeah,
Names
yeah,
and addresses and all
this
of
is not
that.
something we put on the internet. Went down to Brookings City Hall, talked to them about the Social Security bar. We're still working on that at the staff level. Met with Rocky McVeigh about Title III, Title II monies. Been working with Beth Barker Hidego on the Colvin building lease. I've taken, after staff meetings, I've taken that on, so I will be tweaking with her the uses and the monetary aspects of the leasing for that building. And I am supportive of that project, and I would hope that Beth and I could come to a mutual agreement on this resource center. And I'll come back to the board with greater detail and a lease for review. Went to the Veterans Summit. I have been working on a motor pool review, so I basically with Diana Carpenter, I got all the mileage on different vehicles up here and looking at, how the vehicles are utilized and do we want to utilize them more or get rid of them. Some of them that don't get used an awful lot. So I'll be coming to the board and letting you know on that. We also have been reviewing copiers, so I'm collecting, Cena has a very nice spreadsheet in the copiers. We have multiple different copier leases, so we're going to be putting together to see would it be beneficial for the county to go out for a general RFP to have one copy company with a master lease. It would take a while to get there because we have leases that expire all over the place and they'd have to either be bought out. So it's a complex issue, but I'm trying to see if could we save money by going with a single copy company for the whole county.
As long as you're talking about saving money, have you ever looked at cell phone usage and?
Yeah, I get
That's a pretty big bill every month.
I get a bill every month on it, and I review that bill. Right now, there isn't any, it's pretty much just a standard charge. I see individual usage as far as how many megabytes of data is used. And if I have a question with it, I'll reach out to that employee and find out is that a legitimate use and stuff like that. So I review that bill.
Yeah, I guess my only question is it necessary for the number of people having them that have them? I haven't,
Okay. Had a meeting with on the towers with Day Wireless. We met with them. They have basically a three-phased proposal that we're looking at. They give the same proposal evidently like a couple years ago or a year and a half ago, and the county didn't do anything on it. And now that time is gone, and we're in worse shape because the equipment is no longer repairable or replaceable because it's out of date. So they're double checking their numbers and tweaking them and updating them, and we'll come back to the board hopefully within the next month with a recommendation for a path to basically update the tower equipment so we have reliable communications not only for the county but also for ambulances and fire districts and everybody else. So it's an expensive fix, and it's going to be a hard decision to look at.
Commissioner Huxley?
Back a year and a half or whatever ago it was, also a question was raised as to the current technology of satellites. And they were going to look into that and get back to us, and I understood in writing.
We did discuss that at our meeting.
I've never seen it yet.
We discussed it in our meeting, and the consensus of the group was that the technology isn't there. It's not much different than not having a view of a satellite. When you go around a corner, you go into the woods, you don't have communication. The sheriff along with ambulances and everybody else. The problem is this is just not a county issue, individual entity I'm talking about. It's also all the other people who utilize this same technology.
Yeah, and sometimes it is spotty. I'll have to
Yeah.
agree with that. Commissioner Boyce?
Just turnover at day wireless, that might be something that's making it a little more difficult for you too. We may have had I think they've had 2 or 3 leave in the last, kind of been moved on to better options or whatever. So I don't know if you're dealing with new people or not, but that might help you understand if it is less productive on that aspect.
So if I may, one more question on that, because again, I never saw the follow-through way before your time that was promised. Are you saying that the consensus was, or your understanding was, that there are not sufficient number of satellites up there, which is different than technology?
Their feeling was, and the sheriff's feeling also, was that viewing the satellites in a wooded area is not conducive to good coverage. If you're out, let's say, you might have a different decision if you were out in Arizona, but
Maintaining the signal here.
maintaining the signal
So
is
you're
a tough
you're
thing.
saying it's the number of satellites then?
Yeah, you're right.
location.
Probably. I don't know.
And not the technology?
I drive around in my car with a satellite radio, and
Right.
GPS.
you know what it's like. It's in and
Spotty.
out, in and out, and in and out. and
GPS.
It's so different than communication.
It just
So,
depends on,
yeah.
what satellites are feeding that particular
Yeah.
communication.
One of the things I sent out to the department heads this past week is I had IT send out pictures of the distribution list for emails. So there's like 50 distribution lists or something like that on emails, and the best we could come up with was basically just taking photos of them, and I'm having the department heads look at those to try to clean those up. And at a future department head meeting, we'll go through and talk about how do we want to clean up those distribution lists, because I don't think they get a lot of maintenance. Lastly, I have 2 requests for travel here. If you could just pass these down. In your travel ordinance, one of the things is that...
Same amount, or did I get?
They're different. One is for the 3rd and one is for the 19th.
Okay, but the same dollar amount.
Same dollar amount. Yeah, both go to the same place. So on the you probably have read that this week there was an arraignment for a citation that I had given to Commissioner Boyce.
Did you say vacation?
What did I say?
Did you say citation? Okay, thank you. Sorry. My apologies.
Okay. I gave you a vacation.
Yeah.
So anyway, just so people know, so an arraignment is just like a Law and Order, where you come in, you talk to the judge. Are you pleading guilty or innocent? And if you're going to plead, not guilty, you basically would set a trial, and then you bring your evidence forward at that. So in this case, Commissioner Boyce and I were there. Commissioner Boyce, pled not guilty to this, and it was violation of the travel policy, which, was needing board approval for travel outside the county. So what you have before you here is just 2. I know Mr. Boyce is going to be going to a AOC meeting on the 8th and to the O and C counties meeting on the 19th. And I'm trying to just kind of not fight about this issue. I'm just looking for board approval for these 2 travel things, so there's board approval for it.
Commissioner Huxley?
Before we go there, I'd like to ask you a question, just so I get a date down. When you said that there was an arraignment for citation, what day was that?
Monday.
This past Monday?
Yep, they have arraignments every
October
Monday
1st.
at 9 a.m. You should go over there someday. It's just filled full
Well, you
of
made a
people.
comment 3 weeks ago, or that you were going over the next Monday.
Yeah.
But, okay, so
We had to get it on the court docket.
okay, so that was October 1st.
Yes.
And was the date set?
November 27th at 9:30,
November
if I'm remembering correctly.
7th.
I did not write that down, but I'm pretty sure on that.
When's Thanksgiving? Close to that? Oh, earlier than, okay, November 27th at 9:30.
Yeah.
Is, bear with me here. Are one of the presiding judges going to hear it, or did they both recuse themselves?
It was on a video polycom from Coos.
So they've,
County.
okay, so it's going to be with Coos County. Thank you. May I on this?
Sure.
Okay, so these are two meetings outside of Curry County, correct?
Yes. And I'm
That
just
fall within-
seeking board
okay.
approval for this.
Okay, but they fall within, it's a nice change, you know, but they fall within the current policy, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so normally, if this wouldn't be required, I'm not saying it shouldn't, you know, be given the background, but if we were following the rules, we wouldn't even be talking about these, because there wouldn't be one that existed because it
Well, we
falls
have an
within the
ordinance, and
power.
this is what we're going to do now.
Pardon
So, we have an ordinance, and so this is how we're going to follow
Okay,
it.
okay, so that's going to, but is the ordinance say that we have to do this for
Yes.
all?
Out of county.
Okay, out of county, okay.
Yes, yep,
Okay.
yep.
I have it, I've looked at it, but I haven't
Yeah. yes,
clearly
yeah,
read it
so-
thoroughly. Okay, okay. So, yeah, I don't
Okay.
have a problem with
Great.
it.
So did you want a motion to that effect, or just a consensus?
I think
or-
just a consensus. We're not,
Sure.
this is not a resolution, there's not an order. I think this will just be a.
I'm glad to see there's the proper
This will just
paperwork.
be a
Do we,
routine
yeah,
thing.
and do we need to sign here?
Um,
It's got a
I got a
signature.
signature down there, yeah, so maybe just sign it and pass it down.
Okay. Should we pass, okay, we'll do the same document, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, month is October.
The Citizens Revenue Task Force, finally, for my last update, I will be reaching out to the individuals on there and putting out a meeting request through like Doodle, which is a site where you can do scheduling. So I'll probably put out a number of dates to try to schedule this, and we'll have our organizing meeting. We will, obviously, it'll be just like any other, planning committee or whatever. We will have a notice. We'll be taking minutes, and we'll be running it according to order. So I just wanted to let you know that that will be out there, and I'll be working on that.
There you go.
Labor negotiations. I'm also working on that. So I'm working on the 223, which is the road, which is the sheriff, and I'm also working on the 206, which is the road crew. The road crew union, we're still working on setting the initial contract language, and so we're massaging that document. And the 223 law enforcement union, we're basically working within the confines of what the board has given direction for in negotiating the financial aspect of it. That's it.
Good.
Well,
So we'll get to commissioners' reports.
What? Oh, I will be out of county Friday and Monday. And so I'll be appointing and and we're not going to the same spot though. We both are going to the Midwest. And so county administrator, if there's an emergency that has to have some sort of authorization from a county administrator, Kallstrom will be the authorizing agent delegee on Friday, and Swift will be the delegee on Monday.
And you're going to put out an email to all the
I
employees
put out
about
an email
that?
to department heads when I do that. I do that
All right,
usually
yeah.
tomorrow.
Good.
Commissioner Hussler?
May we have, that we've passed through, may we get just a photocopy back for records of that, of those two documents?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Where'd they go?
We're all
That
going
way.
that way.
These?
Yep.
You mean to sign them now?
Okay, we'll finish up with commissioner updates. Commissioner Boyce, you are first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the 4 words I've been for 2 months most anxious to hear. We are winding up hoses. We're still not completely out of the woods, for lack of a better term, but we have a 90% chance of maybe half of inch rain on Friday. And so we've already had about a 1/4 inch. We're presently at our 6th 2-week team. I've got to know all these people very well, and to watch how this has been handled. That's why I put my 2 hats up here. I've worn these hats proudly because the level of commitment and cooperation and honest, sincere work between the Oregon Department of Forestry and the Forest Service is so much. It's the exact opposite of last year, the Chetco Bar fire. Compared to the 9 homes we lost on the CBF fire, the intensity and stress level went up with Agnes, but we were never really any closer than at the very most of actually my place and across at Oak Flat, about 2.5 to 3 miles. So we just need to get through the next few days, and then we have quite a rainy period coming up for the next 10 days. I want to mention the BEAR report. That stands for Burn Area Emergency Response. When they came in last year, and I won't take too long, 10 minutes absolutely at the most, I think, with the information I have here. The total between these 2 fires, well, let me see, when the fire was contained in the Chetco Bar, it was just under 80. This fire is already over $82 million. And that's pretty painful to a lot of people of this county, obviously. Most of the fires actually in Josephine County, as you know, but it's still our backyard. And this is one of the most, you've heard me say before, one of the most unique, diverse, wild, beautiful forest in North America. So we've lost a tremendous amount of evergreens in our wilderness area, all of the above. One of the biggest issues that we have is trying to, and maybe the other good news is there's no more 6:30 a.m. meetings, and I've hardly missed one since the end of July. And that's how I've learned, and that's how I've come out of there every day with confidence that we really are getting honest, direct information from all these teams. And again, not to point fingers, but I know for a fact that was not the case last year. Now there's a couple of teams early on that there's some questions about. That's not my job. I do have people that are researching intensely, and any way we can help the Forest Service now and the Oregon Department of Forestry, especially the ODF budget. The new approach to forest management is just that, forest management, not fire management. If the public is hearing me now, I really think that we're going to see a 5-year period, my hope, that we're not going to have any major fires now. I really believe, maybe that's overconfidence, but some would quickly quip, well, there isn't much left to burn. That's not necessarily true. But if we can keep roads open, and if we can get back into growing big, beautiful forests like we've had here for 2,000 or 3,000 years, that's the answer. And I think we're going to get some help on that. I think, again, there's a tremendous amount of cooperation. The reason I bring up the BEAR report is because that's another very expensive process that comes in, and they're going to be here tomorrow, 10 o'clock. And I'm going in with both eyes wide open, because what happened last year, they come up with these really nice brochures and reports. And then what I want to offer you here, this is a photo that none of the board has seen before. And what we want to understand here is that, sorry, going the wrong way. If you remember the little boy standing on the bank, picture very similar to this. Now you can't see, this is looking kind of northeast, but there are just thousands and thousands of trees. And what upsets our citizens the most is that not only did we lose this area, and it's going to be a minimum of 50 years, if it ever comes back. It could very well, this entire area could turn into a hardwood forest, and that will be, that's opposite what nature set up. Quickly abbreviating or summarizing here, these trees only have a little bit of life left. So as you have mentioned before, Commissioner Gold, the 2.5% or 4,000 acres of 171,000, this is a very clean South Coast, obviously clean operation here to try and get in and get these small trees and get them to market, keep their people working, keep our communities going. So I want to keep working with the Forest Service, especially with the trust that's been built in the last few months. And I want to listen to them and see if it's another kind of rubber stamp deal where a lot of people come in, the ologists with high degrees, and really don't accomplish much. You know, the citizens they're going to respond to that, and I don't blame them. But again, we've got a chance here to maybe make a difference. If you could get to that meeting tomorrow, anybody that's hearing me, any of the commissioners, 10 o'clock Fairgrounds, the northernmost building. It should be very educational, but I'm going to be very respectful, polite, but I want to ask some direct questions on where's this headed for the Klondike fire. By the way, it's 167,000 acres. Good chance we can keep this under 170,000 in the next week. I'm not promising that, but it only grew the last 2 or 3 days about 600 acres, which in itself is heartbreaking and staggering. But the biggest day we had was 7,500 acres. And that was about, it would be a month ago 3 weeks ago last Monday. So, yeah, that's all I have on that. Actually, Administrator Schroeder, you mentioned cars. You know, we've got 14 of them there, whatever it is, 12, 13 between 2 different parking lots, so I appreciate that you brought that up.
Just to highlight the fire, by the way, the Taylor fire, which obviously is
still separate. They're probably going to...
But that's 52,935 acres.
Yeah.
So I had those two up, you're way over 200,000.
You might very well see the Forest Service combine those two in terms of, the Klondike.
Reporting.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll do away with the Taylor name. I don't know that for sure, but
Yeah.
But that's a very good point. I mean, it's 240,000 acres.
Yeah, it's just not one fire.
It's just amazing. So I'm working with the Joe County Commission, of course, too, on that. They're wounded. They have, as we've said to the Pacific High School students, they have about 22,000 acres of county-owned timber. So they've lost some, and they're trying to hustle in there. And just like South Coast was last year, log what they can, even though it's going to be probably 8 to 10, 12 years early.
Can I just say one thing relative to this? Senator Merkley has put forth a bill that would make it so that there is more emphasis placed on getting rid of the fuels and so forth and being proactive rather than reactive, and rather than spending all the money on firefighting. They'll spend it on trying to avoid the fires. So.
And that's a very good point. And, in terms of the economy of Curry County, a lot of people never would think they would hear me say this, but the Forest Service needs a bigger budget for our county, and hopefully additional people that can work on those fuel reductions. I mean, it's 1,000 people with weed eaters is what we're talking about, but that's part of the whole forest management combination that we are working very hard through the state and the federal government to change those policies. The third thing I have here is I've had a lot of people as I go around the county that suggest, why don't we have evening meetings? So I think at some point I'm going to ask for a workshop on that, how that could benefit the citizens. And you heard it mentioned today, that people might be more able to come. So I want to take a look at that. DEQ, with Roadmaster Christensen, he's been hit pretty hard. I think he's made a tremendous effort to be compliant and to work with the DEQ. At some point, we may need to bring the board together and show him public support so the DEQ knows that we believe that he has really worked hard to dot the I's and cross the T's. You mentioned the Vet Summit, Administrator Schroeder. That was well attended, some incredible speakers. I stayed to the bitter end until almost 5:36, and as you know, I spoke very early on in that, and that was really a tremendous honor. I think you all got, the next one is security here. I wanted to have that as an agenda item. This is fine. But you know, in April, in executive session, I tried to get us to spend what was a rough estimate of $1,000 to have cameras on both levels. And I was turned down by both of you on that. And since then, as you know, we've had 3 specific break-ins. And so once was here, I quickly, a reminder, I was here on a Sunday morning and I walked out to use the restroom, and in this hallway I could have swore I smelled smoke. No sheriff's deputy available, city police officer come down, I knew him, we walked through one end of this, I'd already gone through one end while I was waiting on him, every little cubby hole, nobody here. But yet, John Hitt wrote a letter reminding us that somebody did stay in that building, we think, that night. And, or maybe it was the night before, I don't know, but I was very concerned that it was wire smell, therefore the place could have been on fire or something, but I was sure of cigarette smoke. You discovered you were here on a Sunday, and I come before you or after you, I don't remember now, but quite a deal. And so, and then we had somebody steal a picture apparently a week ago or something, so we got to tighten up security here, and I want you to bring that back, and I hope the board will support me on that. We should have done it a year and a half ago.
Did you guys, just a clarification, did you guys discuss, like, because I know we're getting no door locks, so that's one thing. You were talking specifically about cameras and recording?
Well, we apparently had, at that time, I think we still do, we had the basics of what we needed to have a couple cameras on each end. I don't know why they were ever taken down. That's a mystery that nobody's ever determined, but as far as I know. But it was just a rough idea. Said, yeah, we could get these cameras back up, might need a few bucks here or there, you know, to have them available. And, you know, once that word gets out, and the reason we did it in executive session was because we didn't want the word to get out, but now we're exposed here. And I mean, can you imagine if this would have burned down? So we need to deal with it, and as soon as possible if we could. Broadband, I think most of you got a letter on that. There's going to be 18 counties, well, it says communities, but maybe the county could somehow qualify, for study areas, and I think there might be some funding there. And I had sent a note to IT just to say, can you guys maybe take a look at this, and is that something that's in your purview? Probably it wasn't, but you know, I'd like to see how the county might position itself, or maybe it's just one city. There's going to be 8 within the state. Did you read that? I think I can't remember
They're
if you
doing a
sent it or not.
survey. Yeah, they're basically doing a survey. So I asked Daniel to respond to it.
So I think we need to I think we can qualify for that, or at least go through it with confidence, and that might really be a special thing for business and schools and the public in general. So yeah, and then I think the last thing I have here is too early to tell, but I think your hire on David Fortman I think is good, and I appreciate him being in the office. Of course, you know, I want him to be eventually full-time if we can justify that, and I believe we can. So that was a good hire, I think, and I might change my mind, but I don't think so. Thank you.
No, yeah,
That's
and if you do, I know people call the commissioners. You do that, channel it to Dave, or make sure they fill out the complaint form. The complaint form is under quick links, community information on the website, and citizens complaint. And that's the start of the process, is that form.
And I think we're all very happy that we have a code enforcement officer now, even if it's only half-time. So thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm next. I wrote up a written report on some things that I've been working on in the last couple of weeks. I've been attending quite a number of meetings with the Curry County Transit District, and they just got their STIF application in. This is where all employees in the state are going to be taxed, I think, 0.05 cents for every dollar they earn. And it will go into transportation, but you have to have an application in order to do that. And so what's going to happen, what we decided on as a committee, to increase the services of dial-a-ride and bus transportation for Brookings and Gold Beach. And also Saturday bus service is going to be added to Brookings. That will enable people to get to various festivals or whatever. And also the county will be receiving more funds for audits and advertising associated with the audits. Just tell you I pushed for that. Okay, also I've been involved with some SCBEC things, so I'm going to give you a few updates there. The workforce development has been very slow in Curry County. Those of you who don't know what workforce development is, this is a training program for individuals who are out of work or unable to work or whatever, and they're looking for more adults and displaced workers to receive the training. They also have a transit part of SCBEC, and it's looking to make sure that connections from Curry County to Coos Bay are timed so that people from Curry County can get to Eugene in one day, so it's not necessary for them to have to spend the night in a motel. Also, the Healthcare Academy, all of these things are under SCBEC, will possibly be offering classes in Gold Beach and Brookings for CNA 1 and CNA 2, and I think that's great that these educational opportunities are available for individuals interested in the medical field. Also, I don't know if you've been reading the newspaper, but there's been some upheaval down at the activity center there in Brookings, and one of the things is I received complaints about the food for Meals on Wheels in Brookings not being nutritionally appropriate, and SCBEC is the one over this, so they are going to be investigating that situation. So that's it for me. Do you have anything, Commissioner Huxley?
Yes. Some questions first. First one for Administrator Schroeder. You'd mentioned, I think it was the last general meeting, not sure, that on the AOC road fund repayment plan that you had passed out or made reference to an email from AOC that they had received a public records request from one of the major newspapers, and that there should be an article coming out. Did you get anything back? I mean, was that basically AOC that you know, go look in your newspapers if you want further information?
I was emailing the interim director back and forth. We've been trying to set up a date where I could have a phone conversation with him to gather information, okay. And I've not been able to accomplish that. He did mention that Commissioner Boyce was at the last meeting where they did discuss it for some time. I don't know if you can shed light on how they got in here, or if you want to provide an email to the rest of us, or...
He's a little busy right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sure he'll get back to you.
Yeah.
You know, there's actually 4 different road funds in that whole system, and so sorting that out and understanding it, it's a little complicated, which is how they got there.
Did you pick up any information at the last AOC meeting you went to, or anything I can share?
Actually, you know, I usually picked up 3 or 4 of everything, and I forgot.
Okay.
But I have stuff we can make copies of with
okay.
in
All
file. So that's a good idea.
All right. We'll get the information from Commissioner Boyce, and I'll try to continue to hook up with the interim director and try to get more information on that, because I have very little understanding.
Or if there is a news article, you know, and they just pass the link around. I'm just curious. It was a very large amount, you know.
Yeah, $900
$1 million, rounded off.
Yeah.
On the, I know the reference made to the updated public records manual. I communicated again with the lead attorney on that just the other day, and got sort of a short, curt email back from him. I'm following up and asking him when it's going to be published, and he still has not received the approval from the Attorney General. That's not an excuse. You know, the Attorney General's had it for roughly 2 months now. So I have the email address for the AG. I'll email the AG and ask, you know, because it was supposed to be out in February. There was a massive change by the legislature where they changed most of or many of the statute reference numbers, which, you know, it's like, what were you thinking? You know, so they have to go back and change every single reference on 400 page or however many pages. it's a nightmare. But anyway, on what was, and this is also on the a question for Administrator Schroeder on the small claims court status. What is the status on that?
The status on that is Commissioner Boyce was served with the small claims complaint. It has been filed with the court. I had the law firm file it since they can file it electronically. Commissioner Boyce has 14 days to respond to that complaint.
Okay.
So that's where you're at.
Thank you. Now, do you happen to, off the top, if you don't, not to worry, what the date of the service was? No? Within the last week?
Well, I think it's within the last day or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me,
Commissioner Boyce?
just so the public knows, there's two different things here. There's the small claims, which I was served papers day before yesterday, I think. So, and the other one is, yes, the citation. So it's a little confusing.
Yeah, there's
and,
two separate issues.
Yes.
And we might be able to resolve one or the other as we keep going here. So.
Okay.
On the locks status. Now that was approved, and this sort of goes to some of the comments on the video cameras, but with the lock system, that was approved a couple months ago or thereabouts.
Hey, they're still working.
What is it? Do you know what the status is? When it's supposed to be complete?
Okay.
No, I can check on that. I know he was not going to order the parts until we sent him a check to buy the parts. And so there's probably a couple week delay for us to get him a check. And then he was going to order the parts after that. That may take, 6-8 weeks to get. I will provide an update to
Okay,
the
if we
county
could,
board.
because I know it was a very small business. There were no completion dates. There were a lot of real iffy, room for delays on that, because that system will allow knowledge of anyone who is whose key opens, a door, to know the exact time, the minutes and the seconds, the hour, minutes and seconds when access was made. And that was one of the things that the old system had until they couldn't get the software to do that anymore. But to me, that's way high priority number one on security versus like a camera like they have down at the IT, where it just goes, and if something happens and it hasn't gone past the 20 days or 30 days or whatever it is, that it writes over what was there. That's all it does. It's just fixed. Where, again, we have a lot of technology in this, and it can be done. They don't have to physically go to the doors anymore. They can be done via computer or wirelessly, just as these work wirelessly. So I think if we could. On the quick link on the code enforcement, and I think it's going in the right direction, no question. Even on that, we say, all they have to do is go to the website, click on the quick links, go down. The percent of the citizens that look at the website are minuscule. I think we have the ability to know how many people access the site. I know we do through Revise, but I think it will be minuscule. So again, even on that, I think that has been such a plus, going in a plus direction on this, with all the residents that we've had throughout the county, from far north county to far south county in Harbor, to have something, again, not even a news article, just a notice, or what would the papers do to a little update for the citizens? Hey, this is where we are now.
I might be afraid to ask that question.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's only got 19 hours a week, so.
Huh? Yeah. I'm sure they would get it right. There was no question. But again, I think the more get things like that get out there, the better. And this especially, talk about a hot topic.
Yeah. JJ receives calls that come into the office, and that people have a complaint about something. He'll either email them the PDF or send them one based on their desire. So he walks them through that if they can get to the website. If not, he'll email it. So JJ has been great helping out with that.
So JJ, are you getting lots of calls? Just curious.
Haven't gotten one this month.
We're just beginning.
Probably been 4 weeks, 5 weeks since I got a call.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Boyce, you had something?
Oh, I do have just a couple more things, but I don't interrupt.
Okay, are
ahead.
you finished
Go
with
ahead.
your
Go
report,
ahead.
or
Go
is
ahead.
this relative to?
Not relative to Mr.
Go ahead,
Huxley's
Commissioner
report.
Boyd.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
He says it's not relative to what you're talking about.
Okay. So that was that. Then the last question, I just so absolutely clear on the discussion that we had on department head meeting schedule, and that the direction was that Administrator Schroeder is to continue with the existing schedule, but has certainly the authority to change that however he chooses. And the expectation being that one commissioner who is on that list for that day is the one that shows up. And is that your understanding? I just want to be absolutely clear on this.
That's my understanding.
And I'm assuming that that's
That was my understanding,
Commissioner
too.
Gold and Commissioner Boyce. So my last question, I sincerely hope that I left it in the office. I think that Commissioner Boyce is scheduled for, is there another meeting? No, I think.
I have a meeting.
This-
I have a
this
meeting on
month?
the 9th, and
Who's for?
Gold is scheduled.
Okay, that Commissioner Gold. So I sincerely hope, Commissioner Gold, that you're the only commissioner that shows up.
Well,
Good as gold.
I made it.
I'm
made
sorry.
it clear what my opinion
And
was on
could you
that.
just restate
So,
that, please?
yeah, I'll retain the right as a commissioner to go to any of the department head meetings, any or all that I possibly can attend. And I won't be silenced anymore by this board.
I will
I'll take
close.
whatever consequences there are there, too.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Where are we on the beginning of the meeting? We were talking about attorney fees, and what did we decide on that? We were going to go with counting calls.
I was going to roll that into our budget discussion at the end of the month, so I'll have a report
Yes,
on that.
that's what you said.
I think it'd be beneficial to get September data in there, and then you can see.
But you do suspect right now we're a couple $1,000s over. I'm not asking you for guarantee on that, but I think that's what you communicated.
And if we're not, we're close.
Okay, very good. So based on that I couldn't get the building official, I want the public to know that in their interest, I think that they have been harmed in this, and so this is a letter that I'm going to offer you all. And it's my position on, and by the way, at the bottom of the first page there, it says, of course I will treat the new hire with respect. That's been my record, certainly my history. My issue is not with him, okay? The other thing, we have a lot of fire information there. There's an article by the Daily Courier. When you recap what happened at this end of the state especially, but the whole state, when the 103 or 4 or 5, whatever it was, lightning strikes hit on July 15th, very good article. So that's available. And then also on your, the way you've set up the agendas, it's really, not that there's anything wrong with the old system, but it's pretty clean. And I just want to, I appreciate it. I think it's good work. I think it's been effective, and I hope we can stay at this system, unless you improve on it.
Yeah, no, it's. I think it goes really good, and JJ really appreciates it when we have last-minute corrections. He doesn't have to rip apart a 300-page document, insert one page, and then put it all back together again.
Yeah,
it's been very beneficial and time-saving for him.
Took me a couple of tries to get used to it, but it's very, very easy to follow and get done. Thank you.
I just want to then finish because it was clarified to me that I don't think anything's changed with Commissioner Boyce on attending these management meetings, and I would sum that up into insolence, petulance, and narcissism. And those are my final comments, Commissioner.
I don't think we need to call each other names here.
Yeah.
That doesn't do
That's what
anybody
he's
any
done
good.
to about 40 people that have worked here. So I will defy you especially, sir. Especially at, well,
Okay,
You're
this
so
meeting is
predictable.
adjourned.
of course you would cut me off.
You were
That's why
not,
we'll
you
be
were
at the
not
meeting.
recognized to speak.